Today we'll be hearing from Lisa Skydebor, hope I got that right, the Ergonomic Category Marketing Manager here at Kensington. Lisa joined the Kensington team in September of 2018 and has an extensive background in ergonomics, previously serving as a Senior Ergonomics Specialist, assessing individuals in offices, labs, and material handling areas on their ergonomic needs. Lisa was responsible for investigating and mitigating work-related injuries for ergonomic improvement and assisted in the recommendation of company-wide ergonomic product standards. She also presents and trains individuals and groups on ergonomic principles for their specific job duties. So to put it simply, she cares a lot about workplace posture. So please make sure you're sitting up straight, and let's give a big welcome to Lisa.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We basically want to cover some basics of what is actually changing in the workplace today. So to go through our agenda quickly, there's certainly some changes that are out there for not only the employees, but also as employers, and understanding what those might be. And then also some of the common pain points that come along with the changing workplace. You'll see some pretty large numbers come through today, but then also some small numbers. And so then we want to look at why there's this increased demand for wellness and ergonomic solutions. And finally, some strategies to overcome some of these obstacles that we might present today, and it's not so scary to get through them. So to start out with the changing workspaces, as some of you guys may know, as employees or employers that have a different type of workspace, there's a lot of changes that are actually making people go to a smaller footprint, or one of the largest trends right now is mobile working. And there's a huge rise in mobile workers today. By 2020, so that's just next year, 3/4 of our workers will be mobile in some capacity. One of the biggest reasons behind that is technology has become so affordable and so easily accessible that the prices have dropped, and also allowing companies to have larger deployments, but then also more purchases across the board of not only just a laptop or a desktop. It could be a tablet, a smartphone, or any combination of those. So with that, the footprint of typical cube spaces is getting smaller and sometimes even non-existent, or pushing it to a different location. So it used to be, if you were considered a mobile worker, you either had to have a corner office, or you were a sales rep, or it was a very specific role. One of the biggest changes is that everyone is affected by mobility. Most likely, everyone that's on this webinar today is either mobile in some capacity themselves, or they know someone in their company that works in a mobile environment of some sort. It not only affects those sales reps and those executives, but it actually affects people in manufacturing, construction, healthcare, which is actually 18% of our total mobile workforce population today, and then retail as well. Any vertical, and even education, is affected today. And so I want to make sure that people understand that no matter what level your job might have within your company, or what needs you're trying to take care of, everyone has that mobility need for an ergonomic solution today. I want to take a look and make sure that as the users of these types of spaces, that we do understand what spaces are out there, and if you are in charge of implementing ergonomic solutions or wellness solutions, what some of the challenges might be in some of these spaces, but also just the difference. There's not just one type of mobile working, it can truly be anywhere. Even within your own company, a lot of workers are moving to hot desking. And if you haven't been exposed to that yet, hot desking is when you have no assigned workstation. Some companies provide literally just a table and chair. Might feel like you're working at a Starbucks within your company. Other companies might provide a monitor, a keyboard, a mouse, an adjustable chair if you're lucky. And so it really depends on what level of hot desking your company goes to. But that's one of the largest trends in the workplace today, is removing that assigned location because people are always moving around. That does present the concern of device compatibility. So having a dock solution that actually makes you be able to plug and play, not have to bring all kinds of equipment to and from, as well as having a monitor arm or a footrest or something that really puts you in that space, allows multiple users to interact with it with minimal adjustment, minimal time, is key. The next that is a very, very rising trend right now is the co-working space. No matter what city you're in, you will see these co-working spaces pop up everywhere. One of the most popular companies out there is WeWork. And basically the way that all of these co-working spaces work is that a singular group can rent a space from WeWork on a monthly or annual basis. Really basic items are provided from the worker's perspective of having a table or chair, but they do provide nice amenities typically as conference rooms or technology, communication technology, or even beverage stations, which makes it typically pretty affordable, and it provides a community for workers. But there's not always a great ergonomic solution there. So there's certainly room for improvement. And then a remote worker. So I actually work remote myself, and having a remote workstation set up that you can work at every single day with comfort, so I'm not working on my couch or my kitchen table, is really key. And if you have anybody in your company or you yourself as a remote worker, you know firsthand how uncomfortable it can be to work at your kitchen table for hours on end. So making sure that you do have that setup availability, whether it's a mobile setup to get you set up or if it's a more permanent setup. So we'll go through some of those solutions today. So as far as the impact on employers, $60 billion, that's a big number. That is the number that is that was spent on work-related injuries in ergonomics in the US in 2017. That being said, it is the #1 cause of workplace injury for the past 10 years, and I don't see it going down on that list, but what I do hope to see is that number dropping and the amount spent on those injuries. If you look at workers' comp cost, the top 3 related injuries to that #1 injury cause are all related to ergonomics from repetitive tasks or small motor movements. That being said, if we are able to implement ergonomic solutions that are very affordable, we'll talk about some of the ROI that's associated there. You can have up to an 81% decrease in workers' comp cost. And so if any of you are in that HR role, or if someone that you know manages that part, make sure that you voice an opinion about having ergo solutions provided to your company, as there's a huge, huge cost savings to provide a simple solution for prevention, as well as a decrease in risk management as well. There's also a decrease in lost workdays of up to 88%. Typically, one ergonomic injury has 12 workdays lost, and that can be something as simple as a strain or a sprain, or carpal tunnel, or something as simple as that. So to take a look further at the numbers, if you look at a typical claim cost for some of the most common ergonomic related injuries of carpal tunnel, strain, sprain, a contusion, which actually would just be like a bruise or something. Basically, those are all around $30,000 of direct medical cost. That's not including the cost to hire a temp while that person's gone, the lost work that might have been done by that person while they're out, having overtime cost if there's additional rentals. The big one is an OSHA fine if there is something that is an OSHA violation, or any damage that might be there too. So all of those costs really add up. If you add up one carpal tunnel case on average of the direct cost, but then also the indirect cost of the lost time, hiring someone, an intervention of some sort with additional equipment, the total cost actually comes to $215,000 on average. And so if you think about that number, let that number marinate in your mind a little bit. And then when we start talking about the cost of ergo solutions and how easy they are to implement, that number sounds even worse at this point. And having those ergo solutions with very, very simple introductions to comfort is really key on that prevention of those. So the next item I do want to talk about is the increased demand for ergonomics across the board, not only from the employee, but also the employer and the industry as a whole. And so from the employee's perspective, 61% of employees agree that they've made healthier lifestyle choices, not only inside of work, but outside of work, because their company cares enough to have the ergo and wellness programs in place. This is a constant trend in news stories today, as far as having more and more wellness programs, and it is because employees love them, but they're also seeing a great return of the investment that's put into them. Something that employees like to see is their productivity rate going up, but the employers also like to see that. So typically, when there is ergonomics in place in a workplace, there is actually a 17% increase in productivity by having a more comfortable, better fit environment for them. The ROI is what a lot of people care about, and it's a great thing to look at. So the average ROI for an ergonomic solution to be implemented, every dollar spent, typically you get a $6 return. And so that's huge when you're looking at the cost of those workers' comp cases, to be able to reduce that down and really try to look at the prevention of those injuries for your workers, or yourself if you're affected by one of those pains or discomforts every day at work. Another huge statistic is that 91% of workers at companies feel that the well-being efforts really make them feel motivated to do their best at work. And so how nice is it to have your employees come to work wanting to do the best that they can every day, because they feel like they're comfortable and well adjusted into their workplace, and it shows that you have that commitment to caring about your employees as well. Another really big number out there today, Ohio State University said that in 2014, for low back pain alone in the US, which we all probably know someone, if not ourselves, have had low back pain at one point, the spend there is between $39 and $78 billion. Now that encompasses all low back pain. That's not just work-related injuries, but that number is huge. And it's such a widespread problem that there's certainly simple solutions that if we can set ourselves up properly every day at our workstation, we could certainly reduce that number as well. The other reason I really want to talk about this increased demand is that even outside of ergonomics, global wellness is really impacting the economy today. It actually represents over 5% of the global economic output. And so this is growing at a historic rate. It's one of the fastest growing industries. And there's reasons why, because our communities are certainly looking at this closely. And we want to make sure that we're able to pay attention to those trends, make sure that ourselves as employees are happy, but then making sure that the company is providing a great benefit to the employees as well. So how do we overcome this? It may sound scary. Some of those numbers are a little large. We want to make sure that we can overcome it with ease. And certainly Kensington wants to make sure that they have a solution for you. One of my favorite things that Kensington has is Smart Fit. A lot of times we put it out there as easy as 1, 2, 3. So you measure, adjust, and fit. And so you measure a hand size with the image that's shown below. That comes in a lot of our product boxes that are labeled Smart Fit. And that is actual hand size. You would put your right hand down on it, measure the size of your palm. Wherever your top of your middle finger hits, which I am a blue personally, then I can adjust that product, which also has that same color coding onto it, to the blue position, and know that I am in a good range of ergonomic value for that product. So some of the products that are included in that would help support items like our back, neck, wrist, and feet. And so we're looking at things like footrest and back supports and monitor arms that all can be easily adjusted without having professional experience in ergonomics. And this is supported by Army data that they surveyed thousands of soldiers to understand hand size and the relationship to actually make things fit by those measurements. Another popular topic when we're talking about ergonomics is preventing MSDs, or musculoskeletal disorders. The 4 major areas that we talk about there would be the neck, and then the hips and low back, your forearms and wrist, and then your feet. And so I want to make sure that we can talk about some of the solutions that are out there, and also the proper posture to go along with it. You can order all of the equipment in the world, but if you aren't aware of how to utilize it or where it should be, it's not going to be any good. So it's super simple to use, very basic, but starting with our neck, we want to make sure that we rise things up. So basically the monitor arm, monitor riser, your laptop riser, whatever type of equipment solution you have, the top of the screen should be nice and eye level with you. That being said, when you have it at eye level, your neck isn't strained, And Smart Fit is built into a lot of these types of products, makes it super, super easy to know that it's at the right level for you. As far as distance goes, our screen size certainly are not getting smaller as we've seen the curved screens and then multiple screens, that type of thing. And so with that, you want to make sure that you extend your arm out in front of you when you sit down to type regularly and act like you're putting a stop sign out in front of you. The monitor should be placed just beyond that stop sign position, so a full arm's length away when you're in that typing position. And then one of the most important things also is to keep your elbows back by their sides. And so the reason with that is as soon as your elbows pass your belly button or your front core, your shoulders start to round forward, your neck starts to go downwards, and your posture starts to slip. And so having a wrist support for your keyboard or mouse, having a keyboard drawer if your desk might be too high, or even having a footrest, which we'll talk about too, to get yourself in that correct position is a great way to start out those points of contact in an ergonomic position. So going for the wrist, you guys saw the numbers for carpal tunnel. We want to prevent that as much as we possibly can. If you're not familiar with what carpal tunnel is, the wrist has a very, very thin layer of soft tissue that covers the carpal tunnel. And as soon as that carpal tunnel area is compressed or pushed on, basically it prevents the amount of circulation or blood flow to get to those middle three fingers, which is where most people are affected with carpal tunnel. So additional pressure or sharp angles can certainly add to that. The easiest analogy I can always pass on to people is if you think of your wrist like a hose, anytime your wrist moves to the left or the right, so if you think of mousing or keying or anything like that, for more than 10 degrees, you're stopping the full amount of circulation to get to your fingertips. And so basically with that, you always want to make sure you mouse in a straight position, but also utilizing your wrist rest below your mouse and your keyboard properly and not resting on the actual pillow portion of it, but the bottom portion of your palm should be resting to keep your wrist elevated off the desktop. They're also really important to have because if your wrist is resting on that sharp edge of the desktop, you're automatically cutting off some of that circulation that gets to your fingertips very quickly. That happens when your desktop is too high and you're not feeling well supported there. So the wrist rests are a great addition. The foot rest, again, you're going to hear that time and time again. And then we also have some exciting products next month coming out that aid with that, like a vertical mouse. And so thinking of those types of solutions are great ways to prevent that carpal tunnel from being a part of your budget in the end. And then the footrest, basically it does start from the feet up, that if you are able to get yourself to a nice proper position, to have your elbows in a nice 90 to 100 degree angle, basically you can start there, have some movement in your feet so you can apply additional circulation throughout the day, and then moving upwards to support your low back with a backrest or a seat cushion if you've got a really hard chair or maybe a hip problem. Making sure that you're properly supported in your chair is a great option to make sure that you're able to prevent some of that low back pain, as well as the leg and foot issues that might come up. So we've talked about some of the solutions in a basic way. To look at the price comparison, this is a full-on ergonomic solution with a privacy screen, a monitor riser, a laptop riser if you're using two screens, a keyboard and mouse set, keyboard rest, and a wrist rest, all under $400. Certainly there's ways that you can have more solutions to that added, but if you look at $400 compared to that $215,000 price tag, I think it's easy to see how small of an investment you have to make in order to make yourself comfortable or all of your employees comfortable with those solutions. A lot of times people think that the ergonomic intervention is only for people with pain or discomfort. I can tell you that if you're able to prevent and apply these solutions before there's an injury, your injury cost will be so much less than what these items were that were pictured. And so looking at some ideal solutions for every situation, like I said, prevention is certainly key. We want to make sure that we understand the workspace. We spend so much time at our desk every day. And so we want to make sure that the height and angle of our monitors can be adjusted that we talked about before, as well as the top of the monitor or the laptop screen. and making sure that the distance is appropriate for you, being in that stop sign away. Making sure that your wrists are able to remain flat when typing and looking at what solutions need to be in place there, and making sure your shoulders are relaxed and back by your sides. When we're set up correctly, we're going to feel better, able to do more things at the end of our day. And so here's some additional solutions, which we'll go through more in depth on the next page. But I just want to make sure you guys can see that almost 90% of office workers say that they've experienced some sort of soreness or strain because of their office furniture or equipment. And I can tell you from experience, it's typically the lack of adjustment or the lack of comfort in their office equipment or furniture. So certainly you want to look at those comfort and environmental enhancers that we have. So make sure to give your employees the tools for easy adjustability, improved comfort, and tools to really succeed in their workspaces. So here's a cheat sheet. We talked about some of the situations before of where you might work yourself or where some of your workers may be, and looking at some of the solutions. The hot desking would be that internal mobile worker, making sure every workstation is set up with a footrest, a monitor arm, the ErgoSoft wrist rest to make sure that they can feel supported. And then if you do have a sit-stand option, we have those as well. But the anti-fatigue mat to add that cushion is really great. To think outside the box there as well, if you have a lot of conference rooms or copy areas or something where people are standing frequently, allowing your workers to have those anti-fatigue mats there is a great way to enhance comfort. In the co-working spaces, which we mentioned would be like Starbucks or WeWork or something like that, having solutions that people can carry with you, or if you have people that travel frequently, I carry a lot of these items with me when I travel so that I can set up in my hotel room or any workspace that I need to in order to really be in an ergonomic way. You can certainly ask us for solutions if you have a lot of travel population that people can fit in the smallest of backpacks and really be able to set up in an ergo-friendly way. We've got great backpacks and cases as well as rolling bags that can form to your back and really provide that additional lumbar support. They're not hot on your back or anything, and really make it easier to carry and adjust them to fit your specific body. And then with a remote worker, you have to make the decision if you want them to have a permanent setup or if it is something that you want them to travel or on the go. If it is on the go to set up on their kitchen table, you'd want to look more at that co-working space. But if it is something you would like to set up more permanently for them, that laptop riser or monitor arm or the Cool View, which is a monitor stand with a fan built in or an air purifier or a heater to really enhance the environmental comfort, is a really great way to give your home workers or those remote workers that comfort that they need at an affordable price tag. And then making sure that they have that adjustable backrest to make sure whatever chair they may purchase, they're able to have comfort in their lumbar and adjust it to fit their body type. And then we don't want to forget about that carpal tunnel in any of these categories, but making sure that they have a mouse that fits them properly. And then also looking at a keyboard and those wrist rests again to make sure that they are absolutely properly supported no matter what environment they're in. So looking back at what we've covered today, we've looked at some of the changes that are impacting employees and employers today, those astronomical costs of the injuries, and making sure that we have some quick tips to set up your desk, and really how affordable the ergo solutions are that are out there, and making sure that we're able to help you determine those solutions. So that concludes my portion. I have included contact information. I'm going to